2 months before my A-level chemistry exam, I was on a grade C. I was frustrated, burned out, and I thought, honestly, there's no way I could turn this around. And I'd also partly given up on the idea of getting into my first choice university as well because I just didn't think it was possible. But then I changed my approach, and I focused on 3 key things. And these 3 tips completely transformed my grade. And today I'm going to share them with you. Follow them, and you can turn things around too, fast. Let's get into it. Now, the first thing I changed was how I revised. Before, my revision meant rereading the textbook, highlighting notes, and rewriting notes. It felt like I was studying, but I really wasn't, and nothing was sticking in my brain. So I switched to something called Anki. Now, Anki is a very nice flashcard website, which helps you to just type up all your information onto flashcards, and therefore test you using spaced repetition. That means that it shows you the harder cards more often and the easier cards less often. Therefore, it's actually testing your memory. And over time, it locks the information into your long-term memory because you're reviewing those cards just before you're about to forget that information. Now, I made Anki cards for definitions, equations, and synthetic roots. On the front, I'd have a clear question, and on the back, an exact answer written in the mark scheme format. Every day, I'd run through that deck, and Anki would schedule the cards that I need to see that day. It basically turned my revision into a system that ran itself. So all I was doing was just reviewing the cards because they were already written up, and therefore Anki was the system that was running everything for me. Now, if Anki feels like too much effort and you're slightly lazy like I was for some of the topics, you can also use Quizlet. Now, they've already got ready-made decks for A-level chemistry that you can just start using right away. But whichever you choose, Anki or Quizlet, the key is the same. Don't just look at the cards, test yourself until you can recall the answer instantly. And when reviewing the flashcards, I made sure that if I had 8 weeks to go till my A-level chemistry exam, I would make sure that going over flashcards doesn't take more than 2 weeks of those 8 weeks, because you have to use the rest of those 6 weeks for past papers, which is my next point. Now, my second tip, and honestly the biggest game changer, was past papers. I started doing them every 2 days, sometimes even every day when I got towards the end of my 8 weeks before the exam. I sat down, I timed myself, and I treated every paper like the real exam. And here's the key. I marked them strictly using the official mark scheme. This was so, let's say for example, there's a definition. I wanted to be guaranteed those marks, and I wanted it to be exactly the same as the mark scheme for me to be guaranteed those marks. And every mistake I made a note of it in my notebook. And this notebook became my week topics list. So instead of wasting time revising everything randomly, and let's say only revising the things that I was good at, I actually focused my revision on these weaker topics, and I focused on where I was dropping marks. And this one habit showed me what the examiner wanted, and it trained me to think the way the exam is marked. Now, this brings me nicely onto my third tip, which is targeted revision. Once I had my week topics list written up in my notebook, I stopped wasting time on the areas that I already knew, such as physical chemistry and the calculation side, which I was already pretty strong at. So instead, I focused my revision on places where I lost marks, such as in organic chemistry, the synthetic roots. I could not learn those no matter how hard I tried. So what would happen if I messed up a question on synthetic roots, let's say? I'll try and watch a YouTube video. Let's say there's always a YouTube walkthrough for all these different past papers, so just try and find the relevant video for your past paper. And otherwise, if you really can't find anything, I was watching Allery Chemistry and Marchem Guy. They were really helpful for helping me understand these concepts. And once I understand the concept, I'll try and do 10 more of those questions. Try and find past paper questions from Physics and Maths Tutor. They typically have bundles of questions per topic as well. So just do as many of those as you can. And when you master a topic, just tick it off your checklist, off your week topics checklist. Now, that doesn't mean completely forget about having to revise that again. Still keep it ticking over in your brain. Keep doing those questions, but just don't focus too much on it if you already get it. Now, instead of revising everything equally, I fixed the gaps that were holding me back. And the last thing I'll say, my bonus tip, is this. Be completely honest with yourself. This is what transformed my grade. And this tip can really be applied to any part of life, not just exam revision. When I was revising, it was tempting to only go over the topics that I liked, such as physical chemistry and the calculations, because naturally to get 100% you feel so good. It feels good to answer the questions that you already know. But the truth is, it doesn't improve your grade, it doesn't test you. What changed everything was admitting which topics I was actually weak at, such as organic chemistry, the synthetic routes, and the mechanisms. So instead of avoiding them, you have to face them head on. That's the only way you can improve. And the same goes for marking past papers. At first, I used to be really generous with myself. I would be like, oh, I've basically got that right. It's very similar to the mark scheme, but it's not quite the same. And I'd give myself the mark. But when I started marking strictly by the exact wording of the mark scheme, that's when I saw real progress. And that's what really transformed my grade from a C to an A so quick. So don't lie to yourself about what you know. Don't give yourself marks that you didn't earn. The more brutally honest you are, the faster you'll improve, and the quicker results you'll notice. So just a quick recap, here are the 3 things that took me from a C to an A in A-level chemistry. Tip number 1, flashcards and active recall. Test yourself until the knowledge sticks. Tip number 2 was past papers. Strict marking and build that weak topics list. And tip number 3 was targeted revision. Use that weak topics list to your advantage. Focus on fixing these gaps in your knowledge and don't focus on revising everything at once, even the things that you are strong at. And with the extra bonus tip that I just shared about honesty, those 2 months completely changed my grade. Lock in for 2 months, focus on your weak points, and I guarantee you will get the grade that you want. So if you're sitting there with a C or a D right now, I promise you it is not too late. It is never too late. But you have to be smart with your revision. These strategies worked for me, and they can work for you too. So just as a reference, this whole notebook here is all A-level chemistry papers that I only did in June 2023, so the same month as my exams. And have a look here. 9th of June 2023, 86 out of 100. This is the same week as my first A-level paper. Have a look here. 15th of June 2023, paper 2 2021. So this is the organic chemistry paper. 89 out of 100. 89% in organic chemistry, which was my weak point just 8 weeks ago. And let's have a look at one of my final results. Here we are. One day before my final exam, my final paper 3 exam for chemistry, 84%, 59 out of 70, paper 3. 22nd of June, one day before my final A-level chemistry exam. So this is what can happen if you really lock in for 2 months. 8 weeks is all you need. And you lock in and you can get results like these. You can go from a C or a D to an A, or whatever grade that you want. And I guarantee you this if you use all the tips in this video. So if this video helped, let me know in the comments. Tell me what chemistry topics you're struggling with, and I'll make a video to help you out with those. And please take these tips on board. I guarantee you will get the grade that you want on results day if you take these tips on board and you really lock in for 2 months. Thanks for watching and good luck. You've got this.